G'day guys, shooting today down at Torquay Beach. Just wanted to talk to you about emotional energy. And emotional energy I like to think of as our ability to deal with our day-to-day stress and pressures without burning out. I'm going to use a bucket of sand analogy. I want you to think about a bucket of sand. If this bucket of sand is full, that's when our ability to deal with these pressures is at its highest. Everything in life seems cruisy, we hit that flow state often, and challenges that pop up we see as opportunities rather than breaking points. When our bucket is empty, however, that's when we're feeling down, we're low, every little thing that comes along seems to stress us out, and we can find that breaking point quite easy. I want to use a bucket of sand as our way to try to approach this so that we can stay in that healthy mindset as much as possible. I want to think about our day-to-day stresses. So everybody starts with a full bucket of sand like this. We've got an almost full bucket anyway. The things that come along, things like bills, school stress, kid stress, study stress, work, deadlines, meetings, all these little things, I call them sand stealers. And they come along and they take a bit of sand out of our bucket every time. So we got the kids going to school, sand out of the bucket. We got bills we have to pay, sand out of the bucket. We got a mortgage we have to pay, sand out of the bucket. And so on and so on. These little stresses all add up to eventually this bucket starts to run out. Problem is, as these start to build up, we're constantly taking away from our bucket of sand until eventually that bucket has nothing left. When that bucket has nothing left, we can probably operate for a little while on an empty bucket, but it's not a sustainable approach to life. Eventually we're going to burn out, and when that bucket's empty for too long, there's nowhere to start to source these energies. So when the next bill comes along, I'm digging in, but there's no sand left to give. I literally have no more energy left to give. So what we want to think about is how we can avoid our bucket running out so that one, we can deal with these day-to-day pressures and stresses, but two, when an unavoidable big ticket life item comes along, I like to think of as bucket dumpers, we can deal with those, at least give ourselves the best fighting chance to deal with those. So bucket dumpers are things like relationship breakups, custody battles with your children, foreclosing on your house, being fired from your job, death of a loved one or a family member. Any of these things are going to be bucket dumpers, and effectively they take our bucket and they empty it flat in one hit. The fuller we have that bucket in the first place, the easier it is going to be to handle those and to fill it back up. So how can we fill our bucket? The idea here is that we keep the bucket at least more full than it is empty. Try to fill it up as much as possible. And what kind of things can we do to keep that bucket full? This is where we got to start to look internally. Find the things that you can use to fill your bucket, your emotional bucket. Some easy ones. First of all, nutrition. Let's get that on track. It is the simplest way to feeling good, and it's the most overlooked. So let's get that nutrition on track. If you can get that going, that's going to give you so much sand in your bucket that you're off to a really good starting point, and all you've done is eat clean. So some clean eating going to be a huge contribution to your sand bucket. Next one is exercise. Exercise, so much science to show us how much of these happy hormones are released when we exercise: endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and all the rest. So exercise is going to put a lot into our bucket too. Some other ones, sleep, obvious one. Get enough sleep. That's going to go in there and fill that bucket too. Get some sunlight every single day. So make sure you're out in the sun every single day. Get a little bit of sunlight. Another one, earthing. This is something that James Newbury talks about. Earthing, meaning barefoot. Get your feet in the sand, like so. Feet in the sand, or feet in the dirt, or feet in the ocean. Get your body immersed in nature somehow, so it's going to help feed that bucket as well. There are so many of these little things that you might be able to find. Snowboarding, surfing, golfing. They're some of the ones that I enjoy. Float tanks, bodywork, massage, yoga. Meditation is a big one. And meditation doesn't have to be spiritual or religious. It can be anything. It can be snowboarding. If you're living in the moment while you're snowboarding, that's a form of meditation. Any of these things are going to help us add to our sand bucket. As you can see, my bucket's already overflowing. So that now, when my day-to-day stresses like bills, mortgage, people spilling chalk at the gym start to take away from my bucket, I'm far better equipped to deal with it. Likewise, if one of my bucket dumping situations comes along, I at least have some residual sand to start digging from, and I know what I can do to find this. So what I want you guys to do is have a think about the things that put sand into your bucket, and you need to be honest here. I know I use the example in my blog that I could eat a donut right now and feel pretty happy for a minute or two, but that's not a long-term satisfaction. That's immediate gratification. So we want things that are going to be long-term. And it's easy to think, oh, spending time with my family, that's going to put bucket in the sand. But it might not be. That's not for everybody. What if you need some time to yourself to sit on the beach by yourself so that you can give more to your family? So adding to that bucket then allows you to give more. So think about filling it up. Be honest with yourself. Think about the ways it's going to help you get there, and start to dedicate time every single day to doing that so that you can fill your bucket and have more to give. Thanks, guys.